We got Andrew Hutchinson on the line from Hogs 247 Sports, so please join him right there. Look him up on Twitter as well. He's a wealth of knowledge concerning the Arkansas Razorbacks. So you bring in a new head coach, and obviously he's going to turn over the coaching staff, and thus is the case here. Now, the one headliner is, of course, John Chavis, their defensive coordinator, heading up the defense. But if you could just kind of sift through the offensive and defensive staffs, obviously much of that has come with Chad Morris from SMU, and just your initial thoughts about this coaching staff.
Yeah, a lot of the offensive staff came with Chad Morris, and it's a lot of guys that most of them are date back to his tenure at Clemson when he was the offensive coordinator for the Tigers and Clemson, and really kind of helped build Clemson into being the national title contender that they are today. You've got Dustin Fry as the offensive line coach. Joe Craddock is the offensive coordinator. Jeff Traylor, he's actually one that joined him at SMU. He was previously on Charlie Strong's staff at Texas. He's the running backs coach. You've got the wide receivers coach is Justin Stepp. And then one of the holdovers from the previous staff is Barry Lunny Jr., the tight ends coach. He's a guy that I really like him. He's a guy that played quarterback at Arkansas. He's got a lot of ties inside the state. He was an assistant coach for his dad at the high school ranks in the largest classification in Arkansas for, I think, the better part of a decade. So that's the offensive staff. It's a lot of younger guys. There's not really any old guys on that staff. They're very young. They're very active on social media, which is big with the recruits. They hit the road hard. They don't ever stop. I mean, it's unbelievable how much they're on the road, more so than the previous staff. Then on the defensive side, it's mostly new guys. You've got one holdover in defensive line coach John Scott Jr. He's a guy that was only here for his 2017 was his first year at Arkansas. Didn't necessarily have as much success as he probably would have liked to, but it's kind of hard when you've got those depth issues that we just talked about. Another defensive line coach that they brought in is a guy that Arkansas fans will remember, in Steve Caldwell. He actually was a defensive line coach during the Bobby Petrino era. Then he left and came back. I think he was most recently at Boise State. Then in the secondary, you've got Ron Cooper, who was with Chavis at Texas A&M, and then also Mark Smith, who's another guy that followed Chad Morris over from SMU. He was actually the director of recruiting or something like that, one of those titles over there, and is promoted to one of the he's kind of like the 10th assistant coach that was added this offseason. And then obviously John Chavis will be the defensive coordinator and also coach linebackers. I think John Chavis, his reputation is as one of the best defensive coordinators in football. Obviously, he didn't exactly have as much success as he would have liked at Texas A&M. But what he did at Tennessee and what he did at LSU is, it speaks for itself. So it's going to be, and I think also just having a new job, kind of reinvigorated him. There was a lot of concerns that John Chavis, being an older guy, maybe wouldn't be as active on the recruiting trail. He couldn't recruit. There were a lot of concerns on message boards and things like that about that. But I think he's done away with those concerns this offseason with what he was able to put together on defense in this signing class. So I think overall it's a class that's going to recruit. Chad Morris has said during his his first or second press conference that he's not going to hire an assistant if they aren't going to recruit. And if they don't recruit, if they don't produce on the recruiting trail, they're going to be gone. So I think that's an expectation and something good for Arkansas, because at Arkansas, you're not going to get 5 stars knocking down your door to come play for you. You're going to have to go and you're going to have to get guys and convince them, hey, please come visit us, check us out, see what we got, and then go from there. Because once you get them on campus, I think your recruits are typically pleasantly surprised from what they see. Arkansas's got this reputation of being, redneck and everything. People are worried. I think I've heard stories of coaches telling recruits, you don't want to go there because there might be a cow on the runway or anything like that. And that's just not the case. And so if you get the recruits here to visit Arkansas, then you got a chance. You got a fighting chance. They're not all going to come to Arkansas, but they're going to consider them probably more than they would, if they didn't. And of course, the only way you get them here is if you recruit them hard. And I think that's what this staff is going to do.
Yeah, you certainly want assistant coaches that can teach the game, who are teachers and instructors. But if you get another guy who's maybe that less of a teacher instructor, but he's that much better of a recruiter. You need the talent on the field, and you can survive maybe a guy that's a little bit lesser of a coach on the field, but man, can really bring in the recruits and build those relationships, because that's, of course, what it's all about. Got to tell you, Andrew, that I covered the SEC, specifically Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Alabama in the late 90s. So as soon as I saw the name Barry Lunney, I thought quarterback prior to Clint Sterner, if I'm remembering correctly, there
That's
with the
correct.
Hogs.
Yep.